Hi, I'm Johnny, and you're watching a Hexy Beast. And on today's episode, I'm going to be doing something special. I'm going to be doing a preview of this game right here, The Lonely Undead, by Dead Lemon Games. And I just want to say I was provided this copy, and it is a prototype copy, so the art and components are not final. So anyway, let's get to the table and see how it plays, shall we? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a border, and you may notice right now it looks a bit blank. The game comes with a load of these tokens so that you can make your custom map. But in this game, we're not going to be using them because on the back side of the board, there is also a printed map, and we're going to be using the printed version. And here that is. Okay, so next we're going to choose a character to play as. And as you've probably noticed, all their names begin with B. And the guy I'm going to pick this time is Ben. And the reason I'm going to pick him is because when he bites, he succeeds on a 2 to a 4. He's got 2 movement, he's got 2 strength, and he's also got 2 sound checks, so everything's going to be good for him. He also has ability on him. In this case, it means its maximum hand size is going to be 7 cards when it's usually 5. So I'm just going to pick Ben, place him in my play area, in front of me by here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take his standee, and I'm going to place him into the dead center of the board. And I can pick any one of these 4 spaces in the dead center, which I'm going to do that now. I'm going to put him by here. Okay, so I feel like I should probably set up the decks now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these set of cards, one marked with the kid living symbol, and one marked with the officer symbol, and place them in the corresponding piles on the board. And I'm going to give them a quick shuffle and then place them down. Just like this. Then I'm going to take all of these generic living cards, which just have this symbol in the corner, give them a quick shuffle, and just place them off to the side by here with enough space for a discard pile next to them. Then we're going to take 2 random officer cards and 2 random kid living cards, and we are going to shuffle them into the generic living pile. This means that basically any time that we draw from this pile, it has the possibility of being a kid or an officer, not just a generic living. I'm also going to single out this mayor card and place it nearby separately. Then I'm going to take all these aid cards and place them by here after shuffling them, and I'm going to do the same with these red-backed reaction cards, and they're just going to go by here. Okay, as well as that, we also need to set up this death toll deck, and as we're playing on normal difficulty, what we're going to do is we're actually going to take all the even numbered ones out, so 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, and then we're just going to place them face down in order so that you would draw the 2 1 first at the bottom by here. Then we want to create a supply, same as we did with the cards. We're going to use the cop standees, the kid standees, and the generic living standees, and we're also going to have the mayor separate. As well as that, we're just going to take a bunch of stands to put them on when we need them and lay them off to the side. And then we're basically going to be doing the same with the tokens. So we're going to create a supply of living, a supply of kid living, and a supply of officer and the mayor token. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go set up the board, and I'm going to show you how that works. Okay, at this point what we're going to do is we're basically just going to populate the spaces on the board. So as you can see by here, it means we're going to have to put the mayor by here, officer by here, and officer by there. And in the home by here, we're going to place 1 living and 1 kid living. So let's do that now. Just like this. Okay, and now we're just going to do the same with all the other printed spaces on the board. So for example, in the school, we're going to place 1 living and 1 kid living. We're going to place 3 living and 1 officer within the mall. There's nothing in the hardware store. We've always got an injured one in the back alley. So let's just do that now. Just like this. And you may also notice that this injured one is not a separate token. It's actually just the back of another living token. And that's important. And I'll show you why later. Also, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this nifty little plastic car, and we're going to be placing him in the east space facing west. And throughout the game, basically what will happen is a reaction will get drawn, and it will cause the car to drive across and cause damage to whatever's in the middle of the road. It'll tell you which direction to go based on a dice roll, etc. Anyway, we're just going to sort out our remaining stack of living. So what we do now is we take these living. In the normal game, we get a stack of 7 of them, and that's basically going to function as another sort of time in the game. So if all these were spawned and another one needed to spawn, that would be one of our lost conditions. So let's just find a space for these, and we're going to leave them over here somewhere. I'm just going to put them there. And then, as well as that, we also got to put the dogs out. So I'm going to take all these fun little dog tokens, which all have their individual faces and name. This is not final art, by the way, as I said before, it's a prototype. And I'm just going to place them all nice and ready in the park, well, near the park, ready to be spawned. as the reaction deck requires. And I'm just basically going to do that, and I think apart from that, let's just finish setting up our character and we're good to go. Okay, so to finish setting up our guy Ben, what we need to do is first of all we need to grab 4 limbs for him, and as you can see it comes with tokens in the shapes of feet, arms and legs, etc. And we're just going to place them into this limb section of his board, and this is basically representative of his health. As well as that, any living that we have remaining at this point, apart from what's in our stack, we're just going to return them to the box because they're no longer needed. We're also going to grab a couple of bite markers in case we need them. And as well as that, we're also going to deal ourselves 2 aid cards, which come in a few varieties, which I'll show you in a sec. Okay, so the 3 kinds of aid card you will see are usually an item card, which is something that you can spend an action to equip. A roadkill, in this case, or an event, a skill card even, which gives us +1 to our strength while we're stood on the roads. And we also have these event style cards, which are like one-time use, sometimes free, sometimes not. And we may discard for free any event card that occurs to cancel its effect. So here's our starting hand, which is the Mulligan skill, and we've also got an item, which is the use scrubs, which will give us +1 to our sound check and our strength against any medical living we find. These will be within the generic living deck, and they'll pop up with that symbol on. We'll know it's them when we see them. Okay, and with that, we're pretty much ready to get started. And the game takes place in 2 phases. First, we'll have the Z phase, where we'll take actions, and we get to take 4 actions, and then we get to discard the hand limit, which in my case is going to be 7 because I'm using Ben. Then after that, we do the town phase, which is when the dogs will activate if they're on the board. Then we're going to draw 2 reactions, and that's pretty much how the flow of play goes. So anyway, let's have a look at the actions we can perform, and let's just take our first turn. And the first action we can do is the move action, which means to move adjacently the allotted amount, which in this case, for Ben, is actually 2 spaces. So what we're going to be able to do is to move in any direction 2 spaces, including diagonally, but not straight through walls. If there was a door there, we could move through it. The next action we can do is to draw an aid card, which comes from this deck by here. We're not going to do that now. And we can also choose to equip a card from our hand, which I think we might actually do as our first action. So for my first action, my first turn, what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to equip these use scrubs that I picked up at the start of the game, which will give me +1 noise and +1 strength against a medical enemy. I also may discard on my turn to move to an empty space in the clinic. So I'm just going to put that by there for now, show us equipped. The other 3 things we can do, which include performing a sound check, attacking a living, and biting a living, all things we'll do in combat, so we'll worry about them when we get to them. So anyway, let's just go find a living and see if we can bite them. Okay, so for my second action, what I'm going to do is move. And if you remember, Ben's movement was 2, so I'm going to go 1, 2 into this space by here, which actually puts me adjacent to this kid living. Because if I remember what I told you, diagonals count. So anyway, we're going to encounter this now, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, as my third action this turn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and encounter this kid living. And to do that, I've taken a card off the top of the kid living deck, and I'm basically going to explain how this works. And living basically, as I said before, come in 3 different flavors. I mean, varieties. And basically, these kid ones are usually quite easy. They're easier than the generic ones, and the officers are usually harder than the generic ones. What's on this card is basically the value we have to beat for a sound check. We've got a value we have to beat for when we're injuring it. And we've also got a value up here, which is a special ability for this kid, which means it gets +1 sound and +1 strength if it's in a home, which it isn't, it's actually in a school. So what we need to do to engage this is actually pass the sound check. I'm going to show you how to do that now. Okay, so in order to pass the sound check, I'm going to have to roll this dice, which basically has modifiers to our roll on it, with a fail on one side. And basically, what I've got here is I've got 2 on this sound check, and he's got 1. So as long as I don't roll any worse than -1, I'm going to win the check, as all draws also count as a win for the player. So let's roll this dice. -1 exactly. Well, we managed to engage him, so that's fine. We're never going to have to sound check this enemy again. Now for my fourth action, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and attack him. So it's strength 2 versus 1. So if we do this, I can show you how injuries work. Ah, nice. So we beat him with strength. So now let's injure this, and I'll show you how that works. Because we successfully attacked this kid living, it means this token is now going to flip to its injured side. Now that he's injured, we basically need to explain what these are used for. So basically, if I was to ever move away from this, it's basically here as a reminder that I've engaged this enemy. So it means that this token now corresponds to the same card as denoted on the standee. Also, right now it's in its injured state, which means in order to claim it as one of my friends, which is what we're trying to do, I will basically on my next turn have the option to bite it, which if I fail will place one of these little bite token thingies that I showed you earlier on top of it. If a second one of these ever needed to end up on this token, basically that token would end up on the death toll. And if you remember earlier on, I told you that we took the even number out. So basically, anytime that death toll rises to an even number, what we're going to do is we're going to draw one of these death toll cards, which basically, if you look on the other side, they have bad things on them. So this groans. You start to make uncontrollable noises, something inside you is changing, and the neighborhood can hear it. So it's generally got some bad things that happen as the death toll increases. Also, if that death toll ever gets to maximum, we lose the game. So it's another lost condition there. But seeing as we've just injured this guy, that was our fourth action, so I'm just going to leave this here just as a personal reminder for myself, as I'm going to be biting him next turn. So now we're going to be moving on to the next phase, as I've used all of my actions. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to draw 2 reaction cards because we're playing solo. So the first reaction card is, oh, we get to spawn a dog, and this one is Thorn. So this tells us the test we're going to have to pass, and I'll worry about that on the next activation because the dogs activate before we drew this card. So this dog isn't going to activate this turn, but what we're going to do is we're going to take the Thorn token, this little one, and we're going to leave him resting in the dog park, ready for his activation at the end of our next turn. And to make sure we don't forget about our dog, what we're going to do is we're going to place him in this active reaction slot. And I'll play a card. And for our second reaction, we got, ooh, an appearance. Oh, I get to show you this. Okay, so basically this means that we're going to be rolling 2d12 to spawn a living on an empty space. So that's important that the space has to be empty. So let's do that now. I'll show you how this works. Okay, so some of you may have noticed that we've got some white numbers across the bottom and some black numbers going across this side here. So basically, we're going to roll these 2 dice, which is going to give us a grid reference in order to place a zombie as requested by this card. So let's see what we draw. If the zombie is not placeable, remember the space has to be empty, then we're just going to roll them again. So we got a 2 black with a 4, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is an empty space. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our living tokens off that stack we set aside, and it means that we're going to place it inside 2, 4 by here. But as this one is a reveal event, this basically means instead of going into our active area on our playboard, it just gets discarded. I'm just going to put that there. Okay, so that brings us back round to our turn. And I think what I'm going to do for this turn is I'm actually going to try and bite this a needy one kid by here. And to do that, I also have to make sure it's injured, and then I get to roll this green bite dice. And I have to roll between a 2 and a 4, as it says on Ben's card. So let's see if we actually get to bite this guy. Oh no, we rolled a 5. Okay, so because we failed our bite check, what we actually have to do is we have to take one of these little bite tokens and place him, whoops, on top of there to symbolise he's been bitten. Now, you can only ever have one of these on a figure, so if I needed to place another one of these bite tokens, it would mean that this would end up on the death toll track, and we'd be one step closer to losing the game. So anyway, for my second action, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to try and bite him again and see what happens. So, let's take the slice. We're looking for 2 to 4. Yes, we got a 4. Okay, so this now means that this living token there, this kid living, now counts as one of our friends. And what we're trying to do in order to win the game is get 7 friends before we run out of those spawning tokens, before we reach the top of the death toll, and basically, once we get those 7 friends, that'll mean we win the game. So we've just made our first friend. So I'm just going to place our first friend by here, and that means we're one step closer to winning. Anyway, who's going to be our next friendship? We've got 2 actions left, so I'm wondering, what should I do? Okay, with my remaining 2 actions, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move 1 space closer to this guy. Actually, no, I'm going to go 1, 2, so that I can get out here if I need to. And for my last action of my turn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and engage this living. So in order to do this, what I'm going to do is draw a living card off the top of the living deck. So let's do that now. So here's the generic living card we've drawn. And if we were to fail these checks, there's also some fail conditions on them, don't forget. So in this case, if we were to fail the sound check, we would have to discard a card. So let's do that sound check now. Lucky for us, he's only got a 1, but he's got +2 in a moral score. It just so happens that we're in the score, so he's actually got a 3. So what we need is a +1 on the sound check in order to succeed. Haha, that was amazing. Could have done that if I tried. So because we get 1 + 2 and it's a draw, so he's got 3 and 3, it actually means that we successfully sound check this guy. So we won't have to do that again. But that was actually the last action of our turn. So to remind ourselves that I've sound checked the guy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place a janitor standee on top. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this janitor token, I'm just going to place it by here to remind myself that I've actually successfully sound checked this guy, so that I don't have to do it again next time. Okay, so now we're back onto the zombies phase. What's going to happen here is the first thing that will happen is any dogs in our active reactions area will activate. So in this case, Thorn is in the dog park, so let's take a look at his card. Okay, in this case, what we need to do is we need to roll that red die again. If we roll a 0 or a fail, he is going to move 2 spaces towards the closest bar. So, as you can tell, Thorn likes a pint after work. Anyway, if he does get on our space, and it's important to remember that these are the only token in the game that can occupy the same space as other tokens, then we're going to lose 2 limbs. They can also attack other living, but only if a card effect allows them to do so. They'll never do it on their normal activation. So let's activate this dog. And to do so, we're just going to roll this red chance dice again. So here we go. Oh, goodbye car. And that is actually a 1, so it wasn't a 0 or 2. So in this case, it's going to move 2 spaces towards its Z. And because we're the one it's engaged in, it's actually going to go 1, 2. And he's going to end up in this spot by here. Okay, so let's draw our first reaction. Oh, in this case, if you look here, we've got some numbers which correspond to sides of the red dice. And it got a direction for the card to travel. Okay, so let's do that now. So, we roll the dice, which, in this case, if we correspond that here. Okay, see, it says 0 or fail, we re-roll. So let's do that now. Try not to knock my tripod while I'm at it. Okay, so we rolled a -1. Which in this case means the car is going to travel from west to east. So let's show you how that works now. Okay, so this guy's going to travel all the way across here, making sure to stay on the right side of the road, west to east. Anything he came in contact to would, or living would get injured if it drove through them, and if there was one of us on there, we would lose a limb for it. This now gets discarded, and we're ready to draw the second reaction. Let's see what it is. Oh, it's actually spawning another dog. So in this case, it's going to be Lucky. So let's spawn Lucky now. So I'm just going to find this Lucky token and I'm going to place it in the dog park, ready to be activated on the next turn, just like before. Okay, so it's back to our turn now, and I just realised something I did wrong last turn. I accidentally sound checked him at 3 when I didn't need to. This is actually a strength symbol, and I didn't see that at the time. So even though we passed it, I just wanted to point that out because I did make a mistake. Anyway, for my first action this turn, we're actually going to be testing against the strength, which is a 3. So let's roll that dice now. So my first action is, I'm looking for +1 in order to successfully injure this guy. Oh, nice. Roll a 2. So, let's do that now. Okay, so this guy is injured. Okay, so now I'm going to try and bite him. Remember, I need between 2 and 4 on this dice. Oh no, I failed that one. So I'm going to take, same as before, one of my bite markers and place it on the janitor. I've still got 2 actions left. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to try and bite him again. So let's see what happens. Oh no, I failed again. So this is actually going to be the first one of these living that we actually have to add to the death toll. So we're going to get rid of the standee and we're going to take one of the tokens and place it on the number 1 space by here. Remember, because we're in a normal game, we're not actually going to be drawing a death toll card right now. But when the second one lands here, we're going to be having to draw one, and that's not going to be good for us. Okay, so now it's time to activate our dog. So the first dog I'm going to activate is Lucky, and if you notice, there's no dice roll involved here. So it's always just going to move 2 spaces to its Z. In this case, it's going to be 1 and 2, putting him in the same space as Thorn. Then we're going to activate Thorn. And if you remember, Thorn actually requires us to roll the chance die. So we're looking to see what number we get. And, whoops, that went all the way over there. We actually rolled a 1, which in this case, it's now going to move towards us. Typical. So Thorn is now getting even hungrier and is like, ooh, tasty meat up here. So he's come to go get us. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my first reaction card, which in this case is, oh no, it's a flash mob. All of us must relocate to dead center. We first move, then next, these in counterclockwise order. Okay, so we would move, so if I was playing multiplayer, it means I would move first. So what I'm going to do is, this means that we're going to get placed in the dead center, and I think what I'm going to do is stand by here. So, let's draw our second reaction and see what happens. Oh no, this could end badly for us. So, let's roll the dice and see. Uh-oh. Okay, so what it's actually going to do, because it's rolled a 1, is it's going to go from east to west on the right side of the road, which in this case is actually means it's going to run over this dog. Okay, so this is going to go flying right through Fawn. And because the dog got hit by a car, every time a dog gets hit by a car, the dog token actually goes on the death toll, which means we are now immediately going to resolve the death toll card. So, for number 2, we may not engage any living until after our next turn. Ouch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this near the active spot on my player card, just to remind me it's there. So just as a reminder now, if this stack ever runs out and you need to draw another one, you lose. If this death toll track ever gets to the top, you lose. If there's ever 6 dogs on the field and you need to spawn another one, you lose. So basically, there's a lot of ways to lose the game. I think I've shown you just about what I can for gameplay at the minute, so I think it's time that we just go back to the table and I share some of my thoughts on it with you. So, let's get back there now. Okay, so now that I've had some time to play The Lonely Undead, I just want to tell you what I thought of it. And I'm not going to actually attach a score to this because this is a preview and I never attach a score to an unreleased game. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you what I think of it. First of all, I just want to say that I really actually like the design of the board. I love the fact that it comes with a custom side because this game just seems to have one thing it has in spades is replayability. I think the different flavours of living were very much a nice touch as well because it meant I could sort of tailor the challenge I wanted and I could sort of choose what I was going to pursue. I think that card really adds a nice element of random and chaos into the mix. Generally, I thought it was quite tight. It wasn't too hard to learn. I thought that the enemy activation was really quick, even though you're drawing extra reaction cards. I thought it didn't take up too much time, which is perfect for a solo game. I'm quite impressed with this, and I'm really looking forward to it coming to Kickstarter on the 7th of June. So anyway, if you like what you've seen here, please feel free to smash that subscribe button up there and check out another one of my videos up here. Anyway, I've been Johnny, you've been watching the Hexy Beast. Thank you for watching, and most of all, stay Hexy everyone!